A debt deal for the Apple Isle.
The worst kept secret in Tasmania.
The Morrison government waiving $157 million in the state's public housing debt after negotiations with independent Senator Jackie Lambie.
To have that debt relieved finally is great for Tasmania, but more so it is even better for the families out there that are doing it tough, that are living in their cars, or they're out there couch surfing or relying on their grandparents to put them up. Hopefully this will relieve the situation over the next few years.
The move opens the door for other states, and the Housing Minister says he's willing to talk.
I would expect that other states and territories will look at this very closely. I think they'd be silly not to, but Tasmania has met a very, very high bar. And any other states that were looking at it, I think, would realise pretty quickly it's a high bar. But if they were willing to meet that very high bar, of course, the federal government would consider anything on a case-by-case basis.
South Australian senators divided, though, over whether their state should have their debt waived.
Well, I think it's appropriate if the federal government are waiving housing debts and there are other debts in different states, it might be appropriate to do the same.
And I would rather see South Australia become more competitive rather than look for handouts from the Commonwealth.
As Parliament returns, the Prime Minister is setting his sights on Labor.
I like to set them tests when we come back to Parliament, because I'm just trying to help them.
He's actually the Prime Minister and he should be governing. Instead, he's still acting like an opposition in exile on the government benches. And I just find it amazing that so soon after an election, the government exposes itself, the fact they don't have an agenda.
Well, every piece of legislation that we're introducing is being introduced for a very good reason. No doubt Labor will decide their position.
The government is pushing the opposition to support the expansion of the cashless welfare card trial and for mandatory sentencing for child sex offenders. Meanwhile, Jackie Lambie's plan to drug test politicians is gaining momentum as the coalition courts her support to drug test welfare recipients.
I've got no problems with it. Well, I can enjoy myself without the type of things that would test positive to those tests. So
I'm happy to support the drug testing of welfare recipients when we have leaders that call themselves leaders in politics actually put that on themselves and the people in that building as well.
Trudy McIntosh, Sky News, Canberra.